Hey again everyone, and welcome back to the channel for another installment in our new figure showcase series, where we take a quick look at a new addition I'm adding to the collection. Most of the time it'll be a more recent release, but sometimes it will be something I'm back collecting a little bit. But for today's installment, we'll be taking a look at the latest from DID, an extremely well-established 6-scale military brand, and the figure in question is their Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore from their recently launched Vietnam era line. What's interesting here, and DID has been doing this a little bit more frequently, is that this is based on the Mel Gibson portrayal of Hal Moore from the I forget when it was came out, but from the movie called We Were Soldiers, which tells the story of the birth of the U.S. Army Air Cav and the first official battle of the Vietnam War that involved U.S. troops. So there's a lot of history there to unpack, but as a movie it was actually a pretty solid offering in the war genre. And say what you will about Mel Gibson, but with all his faults, you can't deny that he is a great actor, and his role in the movie was a great performance, and I think even more so when you consider he was acting the role of a real-life military officer. For those of you familiar with DID, like I mentioned at the start of the review, they are a well-established company that has been doing military releases for some time, so I have pretty decent expectations for this figure, even though it is launching a new era of figures. They have the pedigree to provide something awesome, and if their Maverick is anything to go by, we should be in for something of a really decent quality. So laid out here with the entire kit, the first thing that's pretty interesting is how much simpler the entire setup is. I mean, you still have pouches and items you have to affix to his harness, but overall, it's just a much simpler figure than some more modern military style releases, which include an insane amount of items. Quality on these though all look awesome, and now besides being historically and movie accurate, the other nice thing for me at least, it'll be a less intense process to put these guys together, so I can appreciate that. But let's start with our usual and go over the accessories in greater detail, starting with the hands, which you actually do get a decent number of in this set. Besides your standard gripping hands for the accessories, you also get some hands pre-posed in a variety of ways to pose him, kind of giving commands. They're very good with great paint apps, giving you a very realistic skin texture feel, although I do see some visible joints as well. So not the best hands I've seen in 6 scale, but they're still really well done, and they're pliable enough where I don't think posing with accessories will be an issue. Next up, you get the M16A1. Now at first I was kind of surprised at how pristine looking this was, but if you watch the movie, this is a new unit going into battle for the first time, so at the start of the battle, everything from their uniforms to their equipment is pristine. Rifle looks great, and it has a dust cover that can fold down, a working action that's spring-loaded, and it has that distinctive full black shoulder stock as well as the handguard. I have to mention a cool thing too with the ammo. You get 2 spare magazines, and the one that comes equipped with the rifle is empty actually, but you do get these 2 die-cast metal rounds. What's really awesome here, you can actually slide these into the empty magazine, and it looks great, and the rounds stay in position perfectly. It's an amazing level of detail at this scale that I felt was worth noting. Next, you get some additional weapons, including his sidearm, which looks great. It includes a working hammer and a nice wood grain cover plate for the pistol grip, and it just has great weathering on the black metal body. You also do get 2 grenades, which are also full die cast, and they include real metal pins, and you finally also get the bayonet in its sheath with hooks to connect to his harness, so a nice assortment of added weapons here. Next up, you do get the harness kit, and look, it's appropriate to the era, but as someone who's picked up a number of modern figures, and I said this earlier in the review, it's also a welcome break from an assembly perspective. Those chest rigs and vests require so much work to weave in all the little components. It's amazing when it's done, but it is a ton of work, so part of me is actually really happy to have a simpler assembly ahead of me. And you get the straps for his shoulders and the belt, as well as a pouch for the canteen to hold ammo, and you also get pouches for the grenades. The holster for the gun is actually genuine leather, which is awesome. They're all beautifully done. They have that distinctive olive green fabric to them, fully functioning clasp, and the hooks and clips are all actual metal. Even the belt and the eyes on the belt are real metal. So it's just nicely done. And as an added bonus, I like that all the pouches are stamped with the US lettering, and the holster has that stamped US seal. Next up, you get the real metal dog tags that actually include imprinted text. It's hard to see in the video, but it's pretty incredible the level of detail that went into these. And then you get the helmet with the Lieutenant Colonel rank insignia and the camo pattern. The underlying helmet under the camo cover is real metal too, so DID used a lot of mixed media here, and they all look great. Now, final accessories are a flashlight, which is metal and actually works, although I couldn't figure out how to keep it on for the video since it's more pressure based, where you push the base in. You also get a canteen as well as a cup that actually has a handle you can extend out. All of these are real metal, so just a nice added detail. And then finally, you get a wristwatch that Mel Gibson wears in the movie on his uniform on the collar. Really beautiful piece with the face not looking like stickers at all. It just looks like a lot of good detail. And finally, you get a bunch of patches that you have to apply yourself to the figure's uniform. So you get the name tag, the U.S. Army tag, and you get the distinctive yellow shoulder patch identifying the 1st Cav Division, as well as the 7th Infantry patch for the opposite arm. These get they don't get glued on, sorry, they get just placed on the figure with an adhesive, but they're really well done and look incredibly authentic at this scale. Now let's jump into the figure itself, and we'll start as well as we always do with the sculpt. Now look, this is supposed to be Mel Gibson, and I do think you can kind of see a likeness. It's nowhere near perfect, but it's there. I wouldn't consider this to be DID's strong suit when it comes to sculpts, but at the same time, since these are based on real people, they may also be able to take some liberties in not recreating the exact likeness to an actor. But from a sculpt point of view, it's actually really nice with the finely detailed hair, and the skin also has a good texture to it and solid paint apps, as well as the facial hair stubble that goes down his neck too. So I would say it's a very solid sculpt. Not the best likeness to Mel Gibson, but from a detail and paint app perspective, very solid. Now the figure itself is on a decent 6-scale body that's highly posable. Uniform consists of olive green shirt and pants with green undershirt as well. They are a little baggy, and you do have to tuck the shirt into the pants for the final look, but tailoring is great. And with this, he does have some real add-ons, like for his collar, you do get the rank insignia on one side, but it's not super complex. Now, once you start adding in the patches, the figure definitely starts coming to life a little bit more. And even though these are just pasted on, they look amazing. The other highlight for me, and also pain in the neck, are the boots. These are real leather as well, with real laces going through metal eyes on the boots, and there's some great detailing throughout. My only gripe, as stunning as they look, posability is an issue because you can't easily pivot the ankles, so you have to work a little to get the figure to stand, but they look great and it's an amazing job by DID. But of course, these being a military release, he really comes to life once he's fully set up with his gear. And I have to say, DID does amazing work. Say what you will about the sculpt, but the fit of the uniform and the harness with all the pouches just look phenomenal. You do have to play with things a little bit to get them to look right, but he does look awesome fully assembled. And I'll say this, with the helmet, I feel like there is a slightly better resemblance to Mel Gibson, but even beyond that, there's just a ton of detail here to unpack, and more credit to DID because they knew you were going to roll up his sleeves, so the forearms also have great detail on them. So look, I know military isn't for everyone, but this figure would also constitute a movie release, I think. And I like that DID is doing that a little more frequently with the likes of this figure, their previously released Maverick from Top Gun Maverick, and the upcoming Civil War John Dunbar, and Horse from Dances with Wolves. If you're not familiar with DID, again, they've been around for a long time, and when you see the amount of detail that they put into these figures, I think there's an increased bit of admiration for the work they do. I know we see other companies and get excited for their products and some of what we think are innovations, but if you look carefully, companies like DID, like Soldier Story, and others have been doing some of these amazing things for a while. I mean, they gave us actual metal rounds to be placed in a functioning magazine. That, to me, is pretty amazing. The figure as well looks great, and he does stand apart a little bit, particularly because he does have that older kit, but fit is great and posability is also stunning, with you being able to recreate aiming positions or even kneeling ones. There really is a wide range of things you can do with him if you just take the time. I'm not sure it's coming across in the images, but there is also a ton of detail here that just impresses, and it's kind of surprising considering how simple the uniform is compared to more modern releases. But it's just impressive and it's awesome. And look, I know it's not a Hot Toys release or an in-art, but I would definitely put this guy up against any one of those companies in just sheer shelf presence. And yeah, Mel Gibson has become a controversial person, but he did a great job in this movie, and I'm glad someone made this figure. So look, that was a quick look at DID's first Vietnam era figure, Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore. It's another win for them, and it just makes me excited to see what other figures they'll be making from movies that maybe people have overlooked. I really do like the figure, and if you're even slightly interested and you can be a little patient during the assembly process, I think if you're a 6-scale collector, this guy will impress you. So let me know your thoughts, and as always, thanks for watching. And if you're enjoying the content, please consider dropping a like, comment, or subscribing, and we'll touch base on the next video.